Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai. We've got lots to go over today. It is always something new, especially with Carney. Unbelievable. We're going to go from the endorsement from Trump to the Epstein to, plagiarism. I'm going to skip that today. I'll deal with that tomorrow once we get a little bit more information on that. We got the Myanmar earthquake, Pierre's record-breaking rally. It's, like I said, been a crazy day. Let's see how much we can cover in the shortest amount of time. Try and keep this video short if I can. We're going to start off with Trump's endorsement. This is his second or third endorsement now. Trump wants weak. He'd rather deal with the weak leadership. He said it before. That's just the way it is. It's the truth. It's the art of the deal. Let's hear what Trump's got to say.
Canada's Prime Minister says that they will be implementing retaliatory tariffs. You said if that were to happen, that you would be responding with large-scale tariffs. Will you be following through with that promise?
Well, absolutely, but we had a very good conversation. Mark called me today at 10 o'clock. We put out a statement. We had a very, very good talk. He's going through an election now, and we'll see what happens. But we have Liberation Day, as you know, on April 2nd, and I'm not referring to Canada, but many countries have taken advantage of us, the likes of which nobody even thought was possible for many, many decades, And, that has to stop. We're going to end up with a very good relationship with Canada and a lot of the other countries. Some we probably won't. It won't be so pleasant. But I think most countries are agreeing with me. They actually, many of them have actually apologized. They said, look, we have taken advantage. And I don't blame them as much as I blame the people that stood. In this case, I can say the men, because so far they've been all men, haven't they? But the men that sat right there and behind the Resolute desk, mostly the Resolute desk, I don't know if you know, you have a choice of 7 desks. The Resolute is the one I like, but some chose other ones. But they sat right behind a desk right in this location, and they let our country be hurt very badly. But I didn't do that. But we had a very good talk, the Prime Minister and myself, and I think things are going to work out very well between Canada and the United States. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to play a little wee bit more because I did some breaking news. I did a 3-part series on the Liberals and their involvement with the Khalistan movement, the extremists, the terrorists. Listen to what he has to say when questioned about India.
Please go ahead.
Mr. President, how is the talks with India on tariff going on? And what is the expectation from India? How much do you want them?
Well, as you know, Prime Minister Modi was here just recently, and we've always been very good friends. India is one of the highest tariffing nations in the world. You know that. I know. Thank you for shaking your head, but it's brutal. It's brutal. They're very smart, and he's a very smart man and a great friend of mine, actually. And we had very good talks. I think it's going to work out very well between India and our country. Very, very well. And I want to say you have a great Prime Minister.
Boom. Now, considering with everything that happened with the Five Eyes in Canada looking like we might just get kicked out, and how I exposed not only that Pierre Trudeau, so senior, was linked, and it sounds like he knew about something going to happen. Obviously, he knew. And then the Flight 182 going down and him using that in order to keep his power and get reelected again. And we know, since I brought it forward, that CSIS was in contact, personal contact, with Nisjar at least twice a week for 6 months leading up to his assassination. Makes you really wonder, is it India or is it our own government? Or is it factions within the Khalistan movement or just other Indian Canadians that were involved? We won't know until we get a new government. But listen carefully. This just started taking off. I noticed, and I'm hoping that this is because of myself and other small, I was the first one to break it. Hopefully other outlets are talking about it. But all of a sudden, there's a spike in media outlets that have now picked this up. Listen carefully.
Canada's Liberal government has barred its three-term MP Chinada Earthquake from contesting the upcoming federal election. The reason is his reported ties to India, which Liberals claim could result in foreign meddling in the election. Now, Prime Minister Mark Carney, a political outsider himself with no election experience, will contest from Earthquake's seat. Meanwhile, the Indian-Canadian politician has slammed the move, saying his strong stance against Khalistani extremism has cost him a place in the party. So is Canada really fighting foreign interference or seeking electoral gains using pro-Khalistan elements, which are a threat to India's national security? Here's more from Canada.
With Canada's federal election just a month away, a major political shake-up has put Liberals in the spotlight. The ruling party has decided to bar three-time MP Chinada Earthquake from contesting the polls again. The 62-year-old, who represents the Ottawa riding of Nepean, had also been blocked from the party's recent leadership race, where political novice Mark Carney emerged as the winner.
I, Mark Carney.
Now, the new Prime Minister, who's also the first to govern before holding elected office, has also taken over Earthquake's constituency.
The first
His heirs
ever
and
unelected.
So quite evidently, the Liberals are sidelining a seasoned politician. At the heart of this move is Canada's fear over foreign interference in its election. Recently, a Canadian media report claims the ousted Indian-Canadian MP allegedly shares close ties with New Delhi, hinting at political interference. The report says members of the Liberal Party who look after foreign meddling also found troubling inconsistencies in a confidential questionnaire filled by Arya. Not just the party, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service has also reportedly expressed similar fears about Arya's alleged links. This came after Indian-origin Liberal Party leader visited New Delhi and met Prime Minister Narendra Modi last year. Rubbishing all allegations of influence or interference, Arya said as a parliamentarian he was never required to seek permission to engage with dignitaries in Canada or abroad. He claims he's been abandoned by his party due to his firm stance against the Khalistan movement that promotes a separate homeland for Sikhs in India's Punjab.
As a member of Parliament, I have engaged with numerous diplomats and heads of government, both in Canada and internationally. Not once have I sought, nor been required to seek, permission from the government to do so. At no point did former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau or any cabinet minister raise concerns about my meetings or public statements. The sole point of contention with the Liberal Party has been my outspoken advocacy on issues important to Hindu Canadians and my firm stance against Khalistani extremism.
India has long accused Canada of seeking electoral gains using pro-Khalistan elements, which are a threat to India's national security. The relations between India and Canada plummeted back in 2023, when former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau accused New Delhi of being involved in the murder of Khalistani leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar. New Delhi firmly denied these accusations, calling them baseless and absurd, and sought proof to substantiate the claims. However, Ottawa has failed to provide any evidence to back its claims.
Zero evidence. Zero evidence. I urge you, watch the 3-part series I did exposing this. It'll blow your mind. It is shocking. Our government is corrupt. The Liberal Party is infiltrated, and it ain't India. It is China, Khalistani, and more. This whole blame India was strictly for votes. It's the exact same thing his father did. Those who forget the past are condemned to repeat it. We're going to move on. Let's deal with some of the stuff going on in X. So this is Trump's post. He really likes Carney. He likes weak. He wants us to have a weak prime minister so he can finish what he wants, the annexation of Canada. So go ahead, Liberals. Keep your elbows up and head up your ass. You guys are going to be the reason for the downfall of our country. If the European Union works with Canada in order to do economic harm to the USA, large-scale tariffs, far larger than currently planned, will be placed on them, both in order to protect the best friend that each of these two countries has ever had. Now, he doesn't want any part of the EU. But he's warned us not to do it. Don't do it. And then in the same aspect, he ends up shooting out another text. Shit, I can't find it now. On how happy he is that his talk with Carney went. This is craziness, people. This is craziness. Now, listen carefully to this.
Mark Carney was caught with Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking sidekick. Prince Andrew, Epstein's client, paid for a lavish party for Mark Carney at Buckingham Palace. And now it turns out Mark Carney's wife's family is in Epstein's notorious black book, 7 numbers, 2 addresses. We have questions, but Carney ordered police to block independent reporters.
Sure, you need to relax. It sounds like you're getting very aggravated.
I am. What is the truth about Mark Carney and Jeffrey Epstein?
There's definitely something going on there, people. There's way too many links, way too many pictures, and the fact that there's all these family members. Carney was found in the book, his wife, his wife's sister, her ex-husband, addresses, more than like just a contact number. We're talking full information on every single one of the names I listed. This is crazy. And of course the pictures, which is, I mean, proof is in the pudding. Proof is in the pudding. And then you get those people who are actually out there trying to stir the pot and make sure that everybody's aware. We know.
Hey, Mark Carney, what about those kids on Epstein Island? Mark Carney, what about the kids on Epstein Island? Canada wants to know, what about those children on Epstein Island? Do you have any idea about them, what you did with them? Canada wants to know.
Good old Daisy Media, boy. They're in Ottawa. They're kudos out. You don't know who they are and you're on social media, find them. They are always posting and fast. He is like crap on a fly. Great work. Great work. Now, listen carefully. This is weak Carney. Okay? Listen carefully.
He's only pretending to put Canada first. This is a classic bait and switch. And now we have evidence that this is the case. Take a look at this article, dated Wednesday, March 26th, written by Ian Bremmer and published by G0 Media. The headline says, "The End of the Transatlantic Relationship as We Know It." Now allow me to read from this article. It says, Donald Trump's second term is having considerably more impact on the global stage than his first. It goes on, it says later in the article, America's largest trading partners, Mexico and Canada, are facing more significant trade pressures from the Trump administration, but the imbalance of power is such that they have no credible strategy to push back. Everyone understands they'll have to accept Trump's terms eventually. The only question is whether capitulation comes before or after a costly fight. Well, isn't that interesting? He basically says that Canada will lose no matter what, and we have no credible strategy to push back. Now, allow me to continue. He talks a little bit about Mexico and then he goes back to Canada. So he says, by contrast, Canadian leaders have a political incentive to put up a bigger fight because Trump's threats towards Canada's economy and sovereignty have sharply inflamed nationalist sentiment north of the border in the run-up to the April 28th elections. Now, here is the key part right here. It says, however, I expect Ottawa will quietly fold after the vote to ensure that ongoing relations with the U.S. remain functional. Canada will quietly fold, he says. So Ian Bremmer says that Canadian leaders are faking it, that they're only pretending to put up a fight against President Trump, and that they will quietly fold to the Americans after the election campaign.
Which we all know. Well, obviously not all of us, because you got those liberals, the uneducated. And by uneducated, I don't mean, uneducated grade 12, hardworking, everyday man. I mean uneducated. Most of these people are doctors and stuff who they literally don't have time to read politics. All they do is click on CBC, CTV, legacy, brainwash media, and they just suck up what they see. They live in a class that is completely, has nothing to do with the majority of Canadians. And these are the people, the uneducated. These are the people that are the major problem. The people who are secure, who don't have to worry about house payments. They're the ones who are the biggest Liberal supporters. In the meantime, like the majority of Canadians, well, 25% of us living in poverty, 58% of us living within $200 of insolvency, highest suicide rate, highest homelessness rate. This is the reality. Liberals are liars. They'll do anything, which we've seen for 9.5 years, to stay in power. Now, this idiot, this is a typical Liberal, okay? And we're going to go through a couple of them today. Listen to what this guy posts, okay? So, Paul Chiang, this is what he posts. He wants his conservative opponent abducted and sold to China. Literally, this is his post right here. To everyone here, you can claim that $1 million bounty if you bring him to Toronto's Chinese consulate. Chiang reportedly told Ming Piao, a Chinese language media, during an ethnic media conference in January. This is shocking. Mr. Chiang openly encouraged people to assist in China interference and transnational repression, said Kuo Kan, co-chair of the Toronto Association for Democracy in China, TADC. Rather than protecting Canadians, he portrayed them and jeopardized their safety. Like, he actually said, and now he's rebutted this, right? So this is his rebuttal. The comments I made were deplorable, and a complete lapse in judgment on the seriousness of the matter. As a former police officer, corrupt, I should have known better. I sincerely apologize and deeply regret my comments. I will always continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with the people of Hong Kong in their fight to safeguard their human rights and freedoms. Bullshit. You've been busted, buddy. You've been busted. This is another Chinese-sponsored Liberal. This guy loves China. If he's willing to literally sacrifice somebody who's trying to stand up against China and protect Hong Kong for what they were supposed to have. They were supposed to maintain their diplomatic, their democratic end, and China has completely obliterated them, has arrested tens of thousands of people. Anybody who stands against China goes to jail, and they're never seen again. This is your Liberal Party, people. Welcome to, I guess most people call it Chinada. Welcome to Chinada. We've been taken over. Embarrassing. And we're just going to keep going. There's a lot more Liberals, and one by one, it sounds like this guy ended up dropping out. But listen very carefully to this idiot. This is sick. Go, Kian.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, walk us through the story. Tell us what you reported.
Yeah, so for background on this, Calgary Confederation is a swing riding in Calgary. It's a riding that the Liberals could conceivably win if polling stays consistent. Their candidate, Thomas Keeper, is running against the Conservative Jeremy Nixon. It's neck and neck. We were sent a ton of information about Thomas Keeper, which is, we get information about politicians all the time, but this was a lot that we got on Thomas Keeper, and it was consistent across all of my sources that I spoke to. I spoke to 8 people who know Thomas Keeper intimately. They were his friends, some still are his friend, some just know him through business, and they came to me with shocking allegations. And I'm going to read to you here from the story because I don't want to step out of bounds. Brett Pierce, a management consultant in Calgary, met Thomas Keeper at several social events. It was sort of through business, sort of through friends. And he recalls the real estate agent talking casually about disregarding his wife's consent. This is something that multiple sources told us about, that frequently he brags about having sex with his wife, whether she wants it or not. The quote from Brett is, he was talking about how whenever he wants to have sex with his wife, he just forces her to do so. Brett asked him, he said, is she okay with that? And he said, I'm her husband. She has to be okay with it. That is one example of him treating women with, allegedly, huge amounts of disrespect. That's putting it lightly. One of our sources said to his face that is effing rape, Thomas. Your wife says no. It is effing no, not you'll take it whether you like it or not. Another fellow who did business with him, was not his friend, said, quote, he's a psychopath. I'm not qualified to give mental health diagnoses, but this guy is a psychopath. That was corroborated by pretty much everyone that we spoke to, saying that they got really weird feelings whenever they talked to Thomas Keeper, and the way that he treated other people, especially women around him, was shocking, to say the least.
Typical liberal. Sounds like Trudeau. Sounds like pretty much every liberal male that I read about, that I study. It's endless. It's the Liberal Party is the sickest. They're the sickest individuals ever. And the media just does not talk about it. Why? Because they send huge checks out to pay for the media. And it doesn't help that half the people that are in mainstream media all went to school with a lot of these politicians. So there's also that part, which makes you wonder, how sick are the people in media, which we know about. A few of them, Evan Solomon. Yeah? Huh? Guy likes to rip off Canadians. Big old art scams. Now, I'm going to click a little bit further. They do this intersectional part on how he confronted this MP, this supposed liberal. Well, I guess he is a true-fledged liberal. If the accusations are true, that he's definitely a full-fledged liberal, because that's their mentality. But listen to the interaction.
Mr. Keeper, Thomas. Hi, Thomas. I just have some questions to ask you. We just have some questions to ask you. Hi, Mr. Keeper. Okay, great. Thank you.
No. Sorry. Carly, come in.
I need my dog.
Sorry.
We just have some questions to ask you.
So pretty clear, you didn't even come within a couple feet of him. Like, as soon as he saw you coming, he bolted in the door and closed it before you could even get physically near him, which is an interesting and important point because
so they end up calling the police. Well, what Kean was trying to do is, before he released this story, is he was trying to get the other side, because you don't just want to grab stuff and just put it out there. I say this to everybody. You got to be able to build the information first, the facts, and then lay it out, which is a lot of what that's the hardest part about me building all of these clips, is trying to get all of the facts. You got to be able to have the documentation, right? You have to have the individual who's going to say it and actually put their face to it, not cover themselves behind a mask and say something. You don't trust anybody that hides behind a mask. You don't trust them. Period. You just don't trust them. So he went to ask because that's what journalists are supposed to do. You get both sides of the story, you find out who's telling the truth, and then you run the story. Well, this is how he was treated. So they called the cops. Well, the cops showed up. Keenan waited. And then after they went in and talked to this liberal, when they came back, this is what happened, what they were talking to Keenan.
At any time, was there any physical contact or anything like that?
No.
Any threats?
No, not to me. No.
Okay.
Or to him, obviously.
Yeah, just the nature of the interaction, just you asking them just questions. Stuff.
Yeah.
They may seek a restraining order. If the restraining order gets granted, there may be a clause in there with no communication, just because they get served a copy of it before it is.
Okay.
So I heard your side of the story. I heard his side of the story. I guess he's claiming you went in and came in kind of hot and made physical contact with him.
What?
Blatant lies. Typical liberal. This is what they do. And their media just backs them up. Either they blatantly say a lie to protect them, or you just don't hear about it in mainstream. This is why you've got to support local, like small media. Juno is like, these are 3 or 4 different people who have been part of organizations throughout their careers, who have left those organizations in order to maintain the integrity, the honesty needed in order to tell the news. And they have joined up with this Juno. If you don't know who they are, look them up. They are breaking stories all the time. They are all impeccable journalists. Not right, not left, straight down the middle, just the truth. Sorry. Great outlet. And I use them lots because they are great. And like I said, they just say the facts. It's not like they hunt down liberal bad. They're not that they hunt down conservative. they just tell the news for what it is. And it just so happens that in the last 10 years, since the communist takeover of the Liberal Party, you don't get any more evil than the Liberals. You just don't. You don't get any more evil, un-Canadian, than the Liberal Party. So let's move on. This is fascinating. It's exploding. Again, mainstream isn't talking about it near as much as they should.
Sydney Fazard for Rebel News, coming to you from downtown Calgary, Alberta, a Canadian province which might be on the verge of separation, and with good reason.
A federal election is not going to change the inequities of Canadian federalism or change the structure of the Canadian Constitution. So we're proceeding regardless. On current polling, to the extent that Ontario, all of the so-called have-not provinces in Canada are going to elect a Carney government so that they can keep drawing money out of Alberta to subsidize inefficient governments in those jurisdictions. I think that all but guarantees, on the basis of the demands that Danielle Smith put forward to the government, that there will be a referendum this year and that the referendum will succeed. I think the election of a Carney government basically spells the end of Canada as we presently know it.
He is absolutely
After generations of neglect and abuse by the federal government in Ottawa, many in Alberta have had enough and are strongly considering a move towards provincial independence.
Now, this is exploding. The Facebook groups, I've shown this on previous episodes, unbelievable how many thousands upon tens of thousands are joining. The mumbles in the street, the whispers, and a lot of people don't want to put their face on it. They just kind of, no, I don't want to talk about it. No, I don't want to talk about it. So any of the open street polling is really difficult. But when you get them off camera, it's over 50% are ready. And if this goes through, if Carney wins the election, say goodbye to the cash cow of Canada. Alberta will not be around. Again, thank the Liberals. This East hate West division that they always use to hold power because the East holds the most amount of seats. You got to wake up, Canada. You have to wake up. You have to decimate the corruption, the un-Canadian Liberal Party. The Chinese bought and paid for Khalistani. This party is evil. We have to decimate them to try and salvage what we can of Canada before it's too late. And it's not looking good. And you heard the guy at the beginning. Even if Carney doesn't win, the same thing happens over and over and over. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. This is what Alberta and Saskatchewan have seen. And once again, Saskatchewan, they're ready. They're ready. Now, Mo hasn't put through the legislation like they have in Alberta, Premier Smith. But Premier Smith is there. She just did the checkmate move a week ago. They're ready. Now it's a matter of referendum and gone. Not even Quebec is ready yet. Quebec has got lots of legislation they got to put through before they could even try to have a referendum. And they don't like referendums in Quebec. Because when you think about it, 70% of them want pipelines. They live through the same policies how the Liberal government has been doing to Canada. They divide Quebec all up into little pieces so they can always stay in power. It's always going to be either the Bloc or it's going to be the Liberals. They don't have real government in Quebec. And they also got probably the most censored media in Canada. Quebec media is the worst. Been there, seen it too many times. Unbelievable. All bullshit. We're going to move on. Check out Pierre Poilievre's rally. They were first saying 5,000. Now they're saying 7,000. And there's a few people that are using AI and they're working out the actual square footage and asking AI to look at the pictures. And they're saying over 7,500 people. Look at this. This guy is on a balcony that stretches the whole way. The balconies are full. Standing room only. It is Packed. Packed. He's done this at all of his rallies. Nobody in mainstream's talking about it. And I've said this like on some different social media. Why is it that whenever you see Poilievre going to where workers are, the workers are shaking hands, hugging, and smiling? Excuse me. They're coming out in real work clothes, like, hard hats that look like they've been used, gloves, dirty coveralls. They look like real workers. And yet when you see Carney, you see these polished white hard hats, brand new safety glasses. Heck, some of the videos that we're seeing, you're seeing them wearing $500 or more, like polar Canadian bought the really expensive coats from Canada. It's all fake. It's all fake. Anybody who is a real worker, who's trying to get ahead and is paying taxes, wants nothing to do with the Liberals. And if you do, got to get your head out of mainstream media. You have to get your head out of mainstream media and look around. You're not alone. It's not the Liberals. The Liberals caused this problem. You got to take 2 steps back, get your head out of the bubble, look around, start investigating and looking at some real media outlets that are giving you the facts. All my facts are in the description. I do not manipulate footage. I clip it to show you what's important. I do not manipulate it. And I always give you the ability to check the entire link below. That's telling the truth. Sorry, nothing but the truth. We're going to move on to, where am I here? Myanmar. Unbelievable destruction, people. Unbelievable destruction.
It was so bad, entire buildings came crumbling to the ground. A 7.7 magnitude earthquake centered in Myanmar was felt all across Southeast Asia. Hundreds are now feared dead, with rescue efforts only just beginning. NBC's Janice Mackey-Frayer has new developments tonight from Beijing.
This was a very strong and shallow earthquake, measuring magnitude 7.7, according to the USGS. The epicenter about 10 miles from Mandalay. It's a city of 1.2 million people and causing havoc across Southeast Asia. The tremors felt far and wide across the region. In Bangkok, Thailand, which rarely gets earthquakes, the shaking caused a building to collapse at a construction site. Dozens of workers are trapped in the rubble there. Only a handful have been rescued so far. Elsewhere in the city, buildings swayed. People rushed to get out to the street. A rooftop swimming pool became a waterfall. There have been several strong aftershocks, too. Thailand's prime minister has declared a state of emergency. In Myanmar, social media posts show a bridge across the Irrawaddy River has completely collapsed, and there are reports that mass casualty centers are being set up at hospitals. The full extent of the quake's impact in Myanmar is still not entirely clear. The country is still grappling with an ongoing civil war, but news websites are reporting extensive damage to roads, highways, bridges, airports. Little is being said so far about the human toll, but the government is calling on people to donate blood.
Now check out this footage. This is crazy. There were workers there when this happened.
หูเวียนหัวเลยเฮ้ยเพิ่งเคยเจอวิ่งรถไฟเอียงเลย
The water moving.
ไม่ใช่เอียงตาอุ้ยจะหล่นนะแคนครับ
Oh boy.
อะไรกันแน่แผ่นดินไหวหรือเปล่าเนี่ยเก่าไหม
เฮ้ยควันขึ้นอ่ะสายขาดนะดิมันโยกเลยนี่ไหวอยู่เลยเนี่ยอะไรอ่ะเนี่ยดูน้ำเราเนี่ยอะไรครับข้างบนนู้นน่ะตึกนู้นน่ะมันมีสระน้ำไหนหรอตึกไหนอ่ะไหนเฮ้ยเนี่ยมีหัวโลกอ่ะอุ้ยนี่ตอนนี้มันยังเป็นหัวเลยอ่ะพี่อย่าไปอยู่ใต้หลังคาดิอย่ามาลงมาบอกทำไมเฮียไอสัตว์เอ้ย
Wow.
อุ้ยชิบหาย
My God, there were construction workers there. So sad.
างานในปัจจุบันครับเกิดตึกถล่มอันนี้คือภาพนะครับใช้สัญญาณเคาะครับที่ผมได้ยินเสียงนะได้ยินเพราะว่าปลายกล้องเราจะ
So it sounds like they are having a civil war, but it sounds like both sides said, hey, let's just stop. And they all put a call out for help to anybody around the world who can come in and start trying to rescue these people. I guess the damage is catastrophic. And it was so long and so shallow that it affected almost every single building. These guys are going to need to almost completely tear down everything and start over. It is so sad. Wow. It's crazy. Nature, Mother Nature, while we're over here spoiled rotten with a government full of idiots trying to tell us we're going to change the planet by our carbon footprint, we still don't even know how to control real Mother Nature. We live in an illusion. Our government is so sick. Well, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you are, make sure that you punch the notification bell. It not only helps me grow the channel, but you won't miss any future episodes. And I got lots of stuff coming. Until next time, this is Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm Alias Tagai. Stay informed.